Yeah. Okay. Cool. So how are you doing?
I'm all right. Oh, man, I love those frames. Okay, so I just now noticed your frames. I have a set of frames that are almost identical to that, and I was going to bring them on this trip, and I forgot. Who makes those?
I got them at a local place in my town.
So
Yeah.
when you wear glasses, you notice other people's.
Yeah.
And I'm really. And my attitude is, if you got to wear glasses, you might as well get cool ones.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of money on different frames.
That's funny because my wife wasn't too fond of them, and then my other glasses got lost in the shuffle.
I think they're
So
great.
yeah, I ended up liking them, and then we cut my hair. She's like, "No, it's better with the shorter."
No,
hair.
no, it's cool. You should keep them.
See, Gina?
Anyway, glasses top. What's your name?
Aaron.
Aaron, I'm Sean. Hi,
Nice to
how are
meet
you?
you, Sean.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Should we get closer?
No, we're framed in perfectly. Yeah. So, going into the Goku character, something a lot of us wanted to know is when you're doing the power-ups,
Yeah.
what's the mindset you get into to really like channel that character?
Well, some of it's technical, like thinking about your breath and your breathing, and how much and how loud you should yell over what length of time, and also the mindset is, balls to the wall. No, the mindset. I was just mentioning this in another interview where, you do a prelay show and you don't get to see the animation. You got to really figure out, what kind of scream you're going to do, and they'll animate to that. But when you're given the privilege of seeing the animation beforehand, you can take a lot of what you need to do right from the animation. Okay, I know exactly what I need to do. So in terms of getting that mindset, the bulk of it, it's really just, kind of amping myself up and breathing. I'll do some stretches. I mean, because you actually can stretch your rib cage and get more lung capacity. There's other things I'm doing to that are technical that I'm getting ready for, and so it's really I don't even know that I'm. And then I'm just thinking because I never really thought about how I do it. And then usually, depending on the scream, there's the sprinkling of whatever emotion goes along with that right at the end. Because I was just thinking about the scene I did where Goku's really mad that Zamasu killed Chi-Chi, etc., and how that was different than other screams. Because there's power-up screams, there's rage screams, there's intensity screams, they all have different subtexts. You're right about asking that. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. And on record, like, what's the longest scream you've been able to hold that capacity?
I tried to time it once, but it's hard to look at your watch. I know I did. I was looking at my watch trying to do it. And I know that they cut them together sometimes. Some of the screams are legitimately long, but I know I can't hold one long, loud scream for 3 minutes.
I know we've all tried, and it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. I mean, I do have good lung capacity. I can do it very long, but I don't know that I can do it, the longest on Earth or whatever. And so a lot of times they cut them together, but it's, I don't know, a minute. I have no idea. Like 3. I don't know. That's it.
And then, I see what I was gonna say. So when you're going into the rage mode, is there anything you draw from life that really you channel for that?
People who know me know that I'm a very fun-loving, very humorous guy, but I can get really pissed off. I've had a bad temper in my life, and I have my own personal trials and tribulations, and I get really mad about it. I get really reactive and really mad about injustice and unfairness and stuff like that. So it's easy for me to call up anger emotions real easy. Like it's anger and humor are the two emotions I can call up real easily. Those maybe that's why I'm not an on-camera actor. Maybe I'm not good at the subtle emotions of for what you got to do for when you're being real. I don't know. I'm speculating, but to explain what I call in would be too personal an interview. From my own childhood trauma.
That's perfect enough. So when you were first reading the character of Goku, like, how were you excited? Because it sounds like you have a lot you connect with the character.
I was excited because I was, it was my first audition, so it was the first time I'd ever been on TV or in a cartoon, an animation. The problem is that, and I'm going to do a longer interview with, there's another interview I have planned that's going to be much longer than this, where I'm going to address this further, where, I don't think people realize that companies like Funimation and Toei and any company is trying to do the best they can, but a lot of times they're exploring new frontiers. And when we first started dubbing Dragon Ball, there wasn't a lot of proliferation of the infrastructure of how to localize a dub and market it. It wasn't really that, like we're just now perfecting the modern automobile, and it's been around for 100 years. Like cars sucked in the 70s and 80s. Why? We'd already had them for 70 years. So everybody's working on stuff. So to that end, Funimation's trying to make a show. One of the things you need to make a show, I mean, the ideal scenario would have been for them to, send over a Japanese crew and train everybody and teach all the actors like how they're gonna, which is the ideal scenario, and that never happens in localization. They just trust the American companies do it. The problem is a lot of American companies, at the time did not understand, how to do that for American audiences. The first company that really attempted to do that was, 4Kids Entertainment with Pokemon, and they did the Pokemon formula, which is really, really heavily Americanize it. And on the one hand, I can understand why a producer would be like, yeah, kids aren't going to get this, so we got to Americanize it. But on the other hand, I would suggest you have a little more faith in the kids. And so, you want to make your money back, but at the same time, I believe that I believe that had all anime that have been kind of Americanized been totally released as close to the Japanese translation as possible, which doesn't necessarily include performance. I don't believe that the gold standard for any show is necessarily the original cast. So, it's possible that the Italian cast of X show that was made in wherever, Japan or otherwise, could be in some ways better for at least Italians, or maybe, you know what I'm saying? It's all a subjective thing. And so I don't, I don't look at that as the gold standard, even though I have respect for the original cast especially. And I've heard some versions of cartoons I've done where I kind of like there was a show I did called Kappa Mikey, and they did a German version, and there were some characters in the German version I liked better than the way we did it, which doesn't even necessarily better. It's all subjective. So my point is that because of this communication, and because there wasn't a lot of, people are learning as they're going, companies are learning as they're going how to do this, I didn't get a lot of materials. I was the way I was studying the characters, trying to find stuff online. There wasn't a lot of stuff online. The internet was early days. And I was referencing the Canadian dub. I was basically taking someone else's artistic choices and trying to, work with that as I go forward. So now that I've done it 20 years, and the more I spend time, and now we're really getting to know, at least I am, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've met more Japanese creators of the show, and I've met Masuko Nozawa twice. I've met Ryo Horikawa several times. I'm really starting to, we really start to understand. But to that end, that doesn't mean I'm suddenly going to, copy and change that. I'm doing it in the best I can, honoring the spirit for American and English-speaking audiences. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's great.
So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. And then something you were saying earlier, where sometimes they have the animation in front of you, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Well, which do you prefer?
I prefer the ideal scenario for me, and I wish companies would do this because I hate it when they do this. And this happened to me on Willy Wonka. I did Willy Wonka, Tom and Jerry, and it's beautifully animated. But I noticed that when you're acting, you have certain subtext that you're trying to get across. And I noticed that some of the facial expressions I had prelayed that show. Some of the facial expressions that were chosen for some of the characters for scenes I'd done were not necessarily how I was doing the read. So the frustrating thing is you've got a non-actor who's an animator interpreting your art for their drawing, which can be done very well. And there are some animators who do it really, really well. But sometimes I'll say, wait, no, that's not what I was trying to say. You made him look bored, and really he's being sarcastic, for example. And so in my brain, I see it and go, oh, wait, no, that's not. But to the regular audience member, they don't really see the difference. And so as an actor, I see it. The ideal scenario for me, and I wish American animation companies would do this, is like we prelay all the lines and then let the animators draw all the fight reacts or all the reactions or all the... Because there have been times where like I've done a bunch of reactions prelay with no animation, and then I see how they animate it, and I'm like, no, you're not... I sounded way more painful than that. Like, it doesn't match. So I, as an audio guy and an actor, I would prefer to let them animate the action stuff. He's falling down the cliff, gets hit so many times, and then scream, and then this. And that's usually written out, and then I got to do all that. But to what level of intensity? How will it be animated? Will the animator understand how to interpret my performance? And so... and of course, conversely, they could say, well, can you interpret my animation? I think that's a little easier because it's visual. It's very clearly spelled out. You can usually get people to go, yeah, does my scream... like I said, with the screams in Dragon Ball, I've always felt like, there was a ceiling I had to meet that was so intense, and my voice scream had to sound as intense and awesome as all that animation, which is really powerful. And I've always felt like I'm always just right underneath it, and I've never quite got it right, except for maybe Battle of Gods. I don't know. I'm pretty hard on myself, so anyway, sorry.
No, that makes perfect sense.
All right.
2 more? Okay. So what has been your favorite job so far within the series?
What do you mean job? What do you mean?
Well, like you did Battle of the Gods, or like which movie? Or yeah.
Oh yeah. Favorite job. My favorite job is being Goku. No. Battle of Gods Resurrection F. Yeah. Battle of Gods Resurrection. The best work I've ever done.
And why is that?
Because I can't complain about my performance at all, and I am really hard on myself, and I will pick it apart. And if I'm like, it's rare that I go, there's nothing I'd change. Like I'm always wanting to tweak it and make it better. And so for Battle of Gods Resurrection, in fact, I remember there's one line right on the end of the day for Battle of Gods. Me and the engineer were watching it down. There was one line I didn't feel like was really quite right in terms of how I inflected it. And I was just about to walk out there. I said, "Can I do that one more time?" And they said, "Yeah, we got time." And I would, if I had not been allowed to do that, that would have been a mark in my brain forever. I'd be like, "Oh my God, it could have been perfect." And that one line. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
No, we're perfectly open with everything.
But I got to fix it, and so to me, I can't complain about anything in those movies. I'm so thrilled with them.
That's awesome to hear, especially since we all love watching you or like hearing your performances.
Thank you.
It's always nice to know that you enjoy it as much as we do.
Oh yeah, I got goosebumps when I saw the Japanese trailer yesterday. I got goosebumps when I saw our trailer. IGN's been streaming our trailer. It's been watched 2.6 million times or something like that. Dude, it's crazy. Are you guys excited? Now, am I right? Does it look like the manga came to life in this animation? Do you guys agree with me? To me, it's what it looks like, that Akira Toriyama's manga has come to life. And not that the other ones didn't, but more specifically in his style, you know what I mean? Because other people draw Dragon Ball for Akira Toriyama. Everyone knows that. The animators are different. Akira Toriyama's not drawing it frame by frame, They've got a whole staff of people doing that. So I really felt like the trailer, if the rest of the movie's like the trailer, which I believe it will be, it's going to smash box office records.
And then the one question about the movie, how do you like working with Frieza this time?
Well, it's interesting because, I've got to do it with the Tournament of Power, and I did it because I haven't done that yet. And I'm excited to have Frieza back. I didn't want to say this. I'm a friend of Chris Ayers, and I didn't want to say this because I don't want to offend the other actors, but from the trailer, his performance is my favorite. No offense to Chris or Damian Clark or anybody, but when Frieza comes in, it was so delightful, and I was just like, I haven't texted him yet. I need to text him, and I'm really excited that he's got some health issues right now. He's working through, and they're very serious, and we really want to make sure he's around with us for many years to come, and especially for this movie. So I hope if anybody's rooting for him, or if he still has his GoFundMe page up or his Kickstarter for his medical stuff, I hope people will help him out and plug that because he's got a COPD really bad, and I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this, but I'm trying to get him more money so he will live.
He's given so much to us. I'm sure everybody's willing to give back.
He is just a spectacular Frieza. I loved him in Resurrection F. I was just like, and then when I'm in the booth, I like to try to do his voice. I'm not good at it, but it's like, oh yes, and him and Jason Douglas. Jason Douglas is Burus, and yes, and on destroying planet. Got a glass of sherry. I love Jason Douglas. He's and Ian Sinclair is amazing. The whole cast is amazing. But in that particular trailer, I was going, ooh, I got tickled when I heard Frieza's lines. I got tickled a little bit. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, man.
Is there anything else you would like to plug in?
Oh, I'm gonna plug me eating this bacon and eggs I got in the back room here for me.
That was the greatest thing. As we walked in for the interview, Goku's eating away, just munching.
I was still eating. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.